Nerf the Vector is probably the most outcried statement in the BattleBit Remastered community at the moment, and in this video I just want to share my 2 cents on the subject. Before we get into this conversation though, this game recorded was one of my earlier games recorded with the Vector after I unlocked it. We are also playing Conquest on Wacky Stan and running Engineer. Now before early access even launched, the Kriss Vector was probably my favourite weapon in the early playtests. The gun is just fun to use with its high round count with the drum mag as well as its high fire rate. Of course, its mobility, being able to sprint quickly across the map and perform different flanks and mobility is always really fun, and why it's one of my favourite weapons in the game. Now you've probably already thought, oh my god, he's a Kriss Vector sucker, oh my god. Just with some context, back before early access, the AS Val was actually the #1 weapon in the game before it was nerfed, as well as at that time when the AS Val was nerfed, the Vector was also nerfed at the same time. Not as much as the AS Val. The AS Val damage was reduced because the time to kill on the AS Val was actually ridiculous, and why it's my highest kill game is with the AS Val. I'm pretty sure this is my highest kill game so far in early access, but I thought I'd just let you guys know. So I was using this gun before it was the #1 gun in the game, and that's what everyone thinks at the moment as well, which I also disagree on. I don't think the Vector is the #1 gun at the moment. I actually believe the FAL or the FAL and the P90 are the top 2 contenders for the #1 weapon at the moment. It's just the fact that not many people are at that level to be able to use those weapons, so we don't see them everywhere and not everyone's complaining. As well as the Scorpion now, I still haven't been killed by that in-game yet, and that definitely is confirmed to have fastest time to kill in the game. So yeah, there's a few different factors coming into the nerf Vector talk. I think the main one that comes into play is the same one that came with the M4. Majority of players using the same weapon, and then you're seeing in the bottom left of your screen what you've been killed by. If it comes up saying Kriss Vector, Kriss Vector, Kriss Vector, Kriss Vector, that is showing a problem to you. That's immediately saying, oh my god, everyone's just using the same one weapon. As well as creators commentating on the weapon as well. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still an amazing gun, but I don't think it is the best. One night the other week when I was playing, I was getting killed Kriss Vector, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is kind of frustrating, and I can see why everyone wants the Vector to be nerfed and open up different ways and different things to play, and for different weapons to be more meta, which I really like. This is where I want to turn the conversation to what if and what will happen when the Kriss Vector is nerfed, because I believe it eventually will. You guys just need to be a little bit patient with the devs, but when the weapon does get nerfed, we have to think of what will happen next. So my insight into patching, so I've actually been reading League of Legends patch notes for about 10 years now. The last year or so, they released a patch every week, and I was reading those notes and changes every week, and now they've changed to fortnightly, but I still, even though I don't play the game on a regular basis, I still read the patch and stay up to date in what the changes are and what champions might be good now. And you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with BattleBit and shooting? I bring it up because I've seen so many times in League, they'll make 1 damage adjustment on a champion and then they'll become the most broken thing in the whole game. And it's crazy to see because you're like, wait, they were buffed, and then you read how much they were buffed and it was like 1 or 2 damage was increased on that champ, or on 1 ability on that champion, and you're like, wow, this very slight adjustment changed this champ from, you know, fucking average all the way up to S tier. You have to pick this in order to win the game. So in comparison to BattleBit, pretty much everyone's saying use the Vector if you want to be a good or decent player and win the game essentially. So if we look into if the Vector is actually nerfed by damage or its drop off range, I'll start by saying I think my thoughts on the Vector nerfs really quick though. I think the accuracy and the damage range will be the 2 decent nerf changes without destroying the fundamentals of the gun. I think having a high fire rate and reducing the accuracy won't hurt, and it will still feel like a fun weapon to use. But anyway, I think when it does get nerfed, it will still be a decent weapon for sure, but then something else is just going to take that place. And I think by the time the nerf of this gun comes around, I believe most players will be a high enough level to use the Scorpion, the P90, and the FAL, and by that point everyone will be using those 3 weapons, and everyone will be saying, nerf the fucking P90 please man, I beg you, nerf the P90, nerf the FAL, because I believe they are the best weapons in the game and have one of the fastest time to kills in the game. When we get to that point, so the Vector's been nerfed, these 3 guns will come up, and then they'll most likely get nerfed as well, and then what will happen there after those 3 are nerfed? Then something else might take the spotlight and become the new meta, or something like the Vector comes slowly back up. And I believe there were talks in buffing, something like the Honey Badger was overly nerfed in the playtesting, near the end of playtest. Once something gets a little bit of a damage buff or change, that might straight up boost and become the new meta. What I'm really trying to get to the point here is that it is pretty much impossible to have perfect balance in any type of game. There will always be one standout weapon which will take priority and be the go-to above anything else. So we really need to know what to expect, and I'm just trying to give a little bit of an insight into my years of experience playing games. Yeah, nothing will be perfect, and there will always be something that will be stronger than something else. I'm all for using non-meta weaponry. I've always been a person to use non-meta champions in League and just to have fun in the video game, and that's really what it comes down to, is having fun. So you might get really pissed off at Sweat Lords, but I think the difference between me and other players though, I'll get one of these games in and then I'll try and relax with like a helicopter gameplay or something else afterwards, where you will just have other players which will just go 100% of the time, which I think is exhausting. But I always like getting a game in like this and just trying to push myself to achieve a high kill game. That's pretty much my point of view on the situation with nerfing certain weapons, and especially talking about the Vector at the moment being the main conversation point. That's my point of view though, guys. I hope you have a little bit more of an insight into the topic now. And last of all, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I know a lot of people are calling for this nerf, but it's always good to try and see the other point of view as well. So I'm always down for more insight into why and why not you think it should be nerfed. Thanks for your time, guys. I hope you enjoy my point of view. This video is a little bit different, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.